Now, before we even get into running back salaries, some big news out of Colts camp with Carson Wentz set to miss 5 to 12 weeks, suffering a foot injury, having to undergo surgery. Geoff, what does this do to the Colts' chances of winning their division? And I know you're like, in the back of your mind, you're like, St. Nick? Is that St. Nick's music?
Yeah, I mean, hey, you never know. I mean, is that Nick Foles coming downtown? I mean, if that happens, Jesse, this will all flip on its head, obviously. But for right now, I mean, look, I was never a guy who really thought that the Colts were a good play to win this division. I've always been on the Titans since the start of preseason, or just the start of July, maybe since the Julio Jones news. So for me, this kind of just puts the nail in the coffin for me in terms of the Colts' chances of winning this division. I'm sure somebody could argue that they're an interesting value play now. They're a plus 180 on the DraftKings Sportsbook to win this division. But I think you're going to see the Colts be a little bit similar to last year, perhaps just worse, though, in that they're not really going to be an explosive offense. They're probably going to keep it conservative with Jacob Eason and do a lot of checkdowns and stuff like that and try and win games with their D and O line. I just don't think that's going to hold up against the Tennessee Titans offense, which is going to be one of the top three in the league, in my opinion. So I think that this is a team where they're going to be scraping by to get in a wild card. And I just don't think they're going to have enough to get by Tennessee.
Garion, what do you think?
Yeah, in a really similar sense to Geoff, I guess you could make the argument that if you were someone who liked the Colts to win this division already, does this make the Colts worse? Because this might just open up value. I mean, Carson Wentz, I understand there's the Frank Reich factor. I understand that he is someone with immense talent, and maybe he just had a nightmare season. But he was dead last among qualified quarterbacks in adjusted net yards per attempt last season, and it wasn't particularly close. So maybe Jacob Eason, I mean, better is a weird word to use, but maybe Jacob Eason can give you a similar output to what we were maybe projecting Carson Wentz to be able to accomplish anyway. So again, the key here is if you liked the Colts already, which I didn't really. I think the Titans at minus 120 to win this division is still a pretty good number. But again, if you thought the Colts could run their combination of really good defense and probably above average rushing attack to anything even resembling last year's record of 11-5, then maybe this opens up some value.
AJ, did you maybe like the Colts or no?
No, not really. Not at all, really. I think the only thing that this changes for me, I'm with both these guys. I like the Titans at minus 120. I think that's a really good price for them in what I think will be kind of an easy division at this point to maybe walk away with. The only thing that I would maybe take a look at is if they don't bring in somebody else without Wentz, like maybe it's worth taking a flyer on the Jags at plus 550, like maybe. And that's really the only thing that I would consider here. You know, they obviously added Trevor Lawrence, ETN. Like I think it's possible at 550 that you could say, hey, this is worth a couple bucks here. But overall, I think the Titans are going to kind of just walk away with this one.
Love this panel, Jesse. Just here for all the Carson Wentz hate, and let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're especially here for it, Geoff. All right, time for some running back talk. Okay, that's what this segment is supposed to be about. So Christian McCaffery is the most expensive player on the entire slate at 9,500. Never mind among only running backs. Okay, so right behind him is Dalvin Cook at 9,100. Garion, both seemingly have soft matchups for week one. So who would you rather have?
That's the weird thing about the Jets. And again, it's always tough using the 2020 stats as a barometer for 2021 because things have changed immensely. But for as bad as the Jets were last season, they were a really good rush defense. DVOA had them as a top 5 unit. They were also, by adjusted line yards, one of very few teams who gave up less than 4 yards per carry in that adjusted statistic. They could probably continue to do that. I mean, you bring in Robert Saleh. He's like a defensive-minded genius. I think the Jets are going to be all right on that side of the football. And as tempting as it is to get Christian McCaffery below $10,000, I think I'm leaning towards Dalvin Cook here because if there's been one narrative everyone in the fantasy community seems to agree with, it's that Joe Burrow could be a really good quarterback because he's going to have to throw 700 times this year because Cincinnati might have the worst defense in football. So I really do think Dalvin Cook is the play here. Although, again, it's never a bad option to go with Christian McCaffery when healthy.
AJ, do you feel like you could save a little cash with Dalvin Cook?
Absolutely. I think it's worth the $400 to save the price tag here. The breakdown is right there. He gave it all to you for the defensive lacking on the other side. I know that Cook doesn't get the same level of like targets that McCaffrey does in terms of adding, the passing element or the receiving element to the game. But you look at big rush games last year, Cook had 800+ yard games, played 14 of them. So you can almost, every other for that, 16 touchdowns in those 14 games as well. So he's almost a lock at that point for a touchdown and to save a little bit of money. I think that's the better play in this one.
Geoff, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just to pile on what these guys are saying, not only are you getting Cook cheaper, but I mean, you're getting a Cincinnati defense with going up against Cook that allowed 5.1 yards per carry. And then you look at the other game. I mean, I don't want to trust this Carolina offense at all. I think the Sam Darnold move was terrible. This is a player who just has not produced at any point in his career. And you've got two teams in the Jets and Carolina who were bottom 10 in terms of plays per game. It's going to be an ugly game. I think Garion's right. Robert Saleh probably just going to come in, get some defensive scheme and try and win a low scoring game. I just don't think the fantasy potential is there at all. McCaffrey might pay off because he gets like 15 targets. That could definitely be something that happens. And maybe you try and squeeze both these guys in. But if I'm picking one, it's got to be Cook.
All right, short on time, so we're skipping around a little bit. Garion, who's your favorite value play at running back for week one?
I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily say he's like the dictionary definition of a value, but Aaron Jones is way too cheap at $6,800. I mean, I understand that it's not like he's suddenly just alone in this backfield. A.J. Dillon is going to get more play this season, but the big knock on Aaron Jones the past half decade has been third downs, where Jamal Williams, a very capable pass-catching running back, comes in and snakes some of those PPR points away. A.J. Dillon is not that guy. He is a between-the-tackles, north-south runner. I just think that Aaron Jones is going to get a lot of play in this game. And this is a different kind of Saints team than we've seen in a long time. I think the Packers, who led the NFL in points last season, could definitely put up a big number there.
Yeah, AJ, you like that?
I mean, I'm here for the Packers love all day, every day, and twice on Sundays, guys. So you'll get no argument there. In terms of like pure value, I actually like ETN of the Jags at 4,900. Look, they're clearly going to try and get him into games one way or another. Running back, wide receiver, whatever they have to do to get him on the field. And I think at that price tag, you get one maybe third down goal line play that, maybe they line him up wide, maybe they put him in the backfield, he gets a touchdown at 4,900. That's just too cheap to pass up for me.
Geoff, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go right to the cheapest guy that's out there that I think people are going to be looking to. It's Chase Edmonds at 4,600 for the Cardinals. I mean, again, even if for some reason like James Conner takes 40 or 50% of the snaps, the PPR work is going to Chase Edmonds because James Conner is a terrible pass catcher. And the Cardinals know one thing about Edmonds, that he definitely works with Kyler Murray in that regard. So I think at 4,600, even if Edmonds just somehow is still splitting snaps, which I don't think is going to happen, I think Edmonds is going to take the majority of the snaps. This is just too cheap in a game against Tennessee that has a nice a point total and potentially going to be very fast pace as well.
All right, AJ, as things stand right now, who's your favorite overall play for week one?
Well, it's going to be a little outside of the box here, but assuming he starts, I actually really like Trevor Lawrence in week one going up against Houston. It's just 6,200, so a little bit cheaper. I don't know that I would play the strict matchup and go Minshew if he starts instead. But I do think Trevor Lawrence has all the tools. We know why they took him when they did. And I think if he's starting week one, that matchup with Houston is just too good to pass up.
Geoff, what about you?
I'm going to go slightly off the board here. I mean, San Francisco is a team that I feel like could win by 40 points in week one. I really do. And I think that you're going to need a part of that offense. I'm going to say Deebo Samuel at 5,900. I don't think anyone's going to be really high on this guy. I think he could just have a monster game versus Detroit. You get him healthy at the start of the year with Garoppolo. So I'm going to say target those San Francisco pass catchers.
Garion, favorite overall play?
Guys, Jameis at 5,200. I know the Saints haven't actually named a starting quarterback yet. I realize that even if they name Jameis the starter, Taysom Hill's going to be in there on some weird packages and all that kind of stuff. But if you think the Packers are going to score a ton of points week one, like I do, I mean, we got the Saints playing from behind in this game. We know Jameis loves to just throw it up and take some chances. $5,200. I think I'd be buying in if he's named the starter.